We're talking about movies. Alright, today we are ranking my favorite superhero, Spider-Man. Been watching Spider-Man since I was a kid, think he's a really cool character. Interesting history lesson for you guys here with Spider-Man. So Marvel actually sold Spider-Man to Sony back in like the 90s, I believe it was, because they were broke, which is hard to think about now. But they have to make legally a Spider-Man movie every 6 years or the rights to the character will revert back to Marvel. So Sony obviously wants to hang on to these characters, and that is how we got number 9 on my list, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So a little history leading into that. They were actually going to make a Sam Raimi Spider-Man 4 that was supposed to come out in, I think, 2011 or 2012. And it kind of fell through at the last moment. Sony didn't want Sam Raimi to come back. He wanted to come back. It just didn't work out. So they had to get The Amazing Spider-Man put together really fast so that it would get out within that 6-year time window. So The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the follow-up to The Amazing Spider-Man. And Sony is just its own worst enemy most of the times. They try to pack so much stuff into movies that just doesn't need to be there. They are so set on having this Spider-Man cinematic universe with all these characters. They all connect. They want it to be like the whole Marvel universe with just the Spider-Man characters. And this movie just suffered so much for it. They tried to force in the Sinister Six and the Green Goblin and all this stuff. All this stuff with Peter's parents being spies and him leaving this train with these coins was just really silly. The movie was really long too. I think it was like over 2.5 hours, and you can feel it. Like, it just drags and drags and drags. I will give it some props. Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone's relationship is really good in this one. Just their chemistry, that's like the best part of the movie. It's just them two. Spoiler alert, her death scene where she falls through the tower is really good. It just takes forever to get there, and the stupid Green Goblin throwing her off the tower is kind of dumb, but the rest of the movie is just kind of silly. They got Electro in there, played by Jamie Foxx. I don't know how you make Jamie Foxx a lame villain, but the whole thing with him being blue instead of kind of like the classic like yellow star electricity is just kind of silly. Paul Giamatti as a Russian in a rhinoceros suit is really dumb, and that's just not how you translate that character. So too much stuff forced into this movie lands it at number 9 on my list. So number 8, I got the predecessor to The Amazing Spider-Man 2, The Amazing Spider-Man. I actually don't think this is that bad of a movie. It's a pretty solid movie. I think Andrew Garfield is a great Spider-Man, and the characteristics he brings to him, I think, are really good. My problem with this movie, it may seem like I don't like it a lot because I have it really low, but it's a straight up reboot. Like, all the stuff that happens in it happens in Spider-Man from 2002. Like, he gets bit by the spider, he's going to high school, he's learning to use his powers, all this stuff, chasing down the guy that killed Uncle Ben. Like, it's true beat by beat. They change up the villain. The Lizard's fine. He's interesting, kind of, except he wants to turn everybody into lizards for some reason. But it's just a reboot. Like, it's not a bad movie, but I think the other movies are more original. And like I said, Andrew Garfield being cast in the role here, he's good, but there's not just a ton that makes this movie stand out. Number 7, I got Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3. So this movie holds a little bit of a special place in my heart. I went to see this when I was in the 3rd grade. My grandpa took me to see it, who hates Hollywood, who hates movies, and I'm sure he hated this movie, but I had a good time watching it, and that's just a fond memory I have of going to see it with him. Sam Raimi did not want Venom to be in this movie. That's like a very public thing, is that he just wanted it to be Sandman versus Spider-Man, and they forced him to put Venom in there, and he's not that big of a Venom fan, so I think he kind of just threw him in there at the last moment. Like I said, this movie to me, like, I have fondness for it in my heart from it, but it's not as strong as the other 2 Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. And then when you get into the stuff with Venom, that's not a great portrayal of Venom. So I think it would have been better if they let Sam Raimi just keep the script the way it was and just be Sandman. But then we never would have gotten the iconic Bully Maguire dance scene, so maybe it worked out for the best. All right, number 6. I think all 6 of these movies are fantastic movies, really elite. It was kind of hard to pick one at this point, but I'm going to go with Spider-Man Far From Home, the second installment in the MCU, Tom Holland's Spider-Man, which was a great introduction in Civil War. This one, I think, like, it's a really good movie. I know a lot of people hate on this one a little bit, but I went and saw this one like 3 times in the theaters, I think. I think that Jake Gyllenhaal is fantastic as Mysterio. I was really excited when they said they were doing him because he's just kind of a different villain. They hadn't done him before, and I just think it's interesting that they actually went went with the fishbowl head. I think that's really cool. And he's just kind of a different villain. You know, he's got the drones that do the illusions. That whole scene in the warehouse where he casts the whole illusion on Spider-Man, it's a good like 5-minute scene. That's just fantastic. This was the first one without Iron Man 2 for Spider-Man after he died in Endgame. So, I mean, I think it's a really good movie. It's just not as strong as the other ones on there, but I think it's a really good watch. The ending of the movie is also a really good tie-in to Spider-Man 3, where they bring back J. Jonah Jameson from the Sam Raimi movies, who's a perfect casting as J. Jonah Jameson, and he reveals Spider-Man's identity to the world. It's just a really good ending, really good tie-in to the next one. All right, so it might be a little bit of a surprising pick here at 5, but I got Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Now, this is a fantastic movie. This is, I was so surprised when I went and saw it when it came out. I just saw it like a few weeks after it came out, just wanted to check it out, and it was fantastic. The story of Miles Morales that they put in here is really good. The first time they didn't have Peter Parker as Spider-Man, but then you got Jake Johnson playing Peter B. Parker in here, and then like you got Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Ham are standouts. It's just a really good movie. It's a really fun story. It's kind of like with the multiverse and all these other characters in there. It's just a really fun movie. I know a lot of people have this in like their top 3 Spider-Man movies, and for me, like, I admit it's a really good movie. I just tend to like the live action stuff a little more. So if you're asking me would I rather watch this or some of the other live action movies I'm about to mention, I would rather watch them, but that doesn't take anything away from this movie, and that it's a fantastic movie, and I think you should check it out. All right, number 4, I got Spider-Man Homecoming. Now, after Sony and Marvel reached a deal to introduce Spider-Man into the MCU with Civil War, this was his first solo outing, his own movie in the MCU, and I just thought it was fantastic. I remember the opening when it first starts, and it's all like him having the camcorder footage from Civil War, everything that happened. It was just really funny. I think that this movie really hammers home like the John Hughes like kind of high school vibe that the MCU has, and like you can enjoy the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans and the Tom Holland Spider-Mans and acknowledge that they're both very different also, where I think that the Tobey Maguire ones, like they're its own story. Spider-Man's there by himself in his own world and it's his story, but then you can also have some great stories with him in the MCU interacting with Tony Stark and the Avengers, and where he can play in that sandbox as well. And you can create great stories out of both. And it's like sometimes in the MCU you miss him being able to have like the connections or the like his own story not connected to everything. But then in the Tobey Maguire ones, it's like, well, it would be cool to see him interact with all these other people, so you can get both watching both trilogies. It's not like one doesn't exist because another one exists. I thought that the introduction of Michael Keaton as the Vulture, he's a great villain, and I like that they didn't kill him at the end, even though now Sony has shot themselves in the foot and sent him over to be in the worst Spider-Man movie ever, Morbius, in the post-credits scene that doesn't even make any sense. So I hope they get him back at some point in the MCU. But yeah, Homecoming's a great movie. It's really funny. It's just kind of like a fun high school feel to it. And the twist when he picks up his prom date and it's Michael Keaton who answers the door, I did not see it coming. I should have seen it coming, but like the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, no way, that's genius. So yeah, Homecoming's a really good movie. Got it at number 4. Godspeed, Spider-Man. Spider-Man 2002. Look, this one's a classic. Kicked it off with the GOAT, Tobey Maguire. Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin is fantastic. He's just like hamming it up, doing his like 110% in this role. He's so good. I was just saying how like you could have Spider-Man in his own world. You could have him connected to the Avengers. There's just something unique about having him being the only superpowered individual, where it's him protecting New York. It's only him. No one's going to come help him. And the whole idea around this movie of with great power comes great responsibility that they did so well here. They did a lot better than they did in The Amazing Spider-Man, and they didn't even touch on it in the MCU, which is probably smart just because everybody knows the story. But that whole aspect of it, losing Uncle Ben, the lessons he teaches him, just top tier cinema. Macho Man Randy Savage in the cave. I got you for 3 minutes. Just great scene where he lets the killer go, ends up Uncle Ben dying. Heart-wrenching stuff. You got Aunt May in there, who's, bless her soul, Green Goblin scaring her to death while she's just praying that night. The casting of J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson is an all-time classic. I don't think anyone else could play him. I'm glad they didn't recast him in The Amazing Spider-Man because it just wouldn't have worked. Danny Elfman's music is fantastic in this, and I'm just a big Sam Raimi guy. I love his directing style. I liked Doctor Strange 2 a lot more than a lot of other people did, just because I'm a big Sam Raimi guy. I like the way he shoots things. So that's why I have it here at number 3 on my list. Number 2, I got Spider-Man No Way Home, the third film in the trilogy of the MCU Spider-Mans. And look, I think this is a great movie. I had it ranked, I think, 3rd on my list of MCU films. Link in the description below. They do a really good job of bringing all 3 Spider-Man Spider-Man into the movie, and then quality of movies notwithstanding, I think all three Spider-Man do a fantastic job. I know I got both Andrew Garfield films really low on this list, but I think he is a great Spider-Man just because Sony doesn't know what they're doing, doesn't have any reflection on him. But I love how they just let them talk. They just put them in a room together and let them talk and hang out. And there was a cheap way they could have done this. They could have teased it out like, oh, Toby and Andrew are going to be in the movie, and then they were in it for 5 minutes and play no real consequence to the story, but they're in it for like the entire third act, a pretty lengthy amount. And I think that just having them in there is great. Having all the villains back is great. Willem Dafoe, Alfred Molina, Jamie Foxx all do a fantastic job. Having Doctor Strange in there is really cool. And just the way it connects to everything now, like the entire MCU doesn't remember who Peter is. There's actual stakes in this one too. A lot of the MCU movies kind of cheap out with the endings, but like nobody remembers who he is. He had to give up his girlfriend, and that's really kind of the epitome of great power comes great responsibility. He has to be able to sacrifice the things for himself for the best of others. So, I mean, great ending to the movie, I think. I don't know if they'll stick with that. I'm sure at some point him and Zendaya will get back together. But I just thought this was a great movie. I think it's probably the last great MCU movie we've had. We haven't had a good one in a little bit. This is probably the last great one in the 2021. So come on, Marvel, pick it up. So that brings us to number one. A little bit of a spoiler here with the poster. Spider-Man 2, all-time classic. This is a fantastic movie from the character standpoint, story standpoint. Tobey Maguire's great in this movie. Alfred Molina as Doc Ock is an all-time villain. His character arc in the movie is so good, coming around full circle, where he will not die a monster and let the arms take him down. Peter brings him back with intelligence is a gift to be used for mankind. A privilege. Some great lines in this movie. The power of the sun in the palm of my hand. So, I mean, I'll give a critique to this movie, even though I think it's a masterpiece. I think that the arc of him losing his powers is a little generic. That kind of happens sometimes. I haven't seen that Superman movie where it happens, but I think that happens in there. You know, the cops are driving by, he takes a big old bite of that hot dog, and it's just like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not Spider-Man. But then the character arc with that, too, you have to be able to put down your wants and your needs for the good of others. He may not get to be with Mary Jane. He may not get to have the job he wants, but the power that he has been given, he has to defend New York City. And the train scene is so good, where he stops the train and then Doc Ock rips the train apart, and then you got Joey Diaz and the New Yorkers. You got to go through us to get to him, buddy. I think that this is just a fantastic movie. Some of the stuff, I guess, in there with like Mary Jane, she's kind of back and forth on Peter, always like kissing all these random guys. But you know, their relationship, I think, is really good. It's just an all-time classic. Like, I think you could watch this movie anytime and just be like, that was perfect. The stakes are great. The writing is great. And it's just an all-time classic. It is the #1 Spider-Man movie. So that is my ranking of all 9 Spider-Man movies. What do you think of my list? Am I stupid? Let me know in the comment section below where you would have things ranked, what I got wrong, why I am the way that I am. I don't know. My mom's been asking that for a while. Thank you guys for watching the video. I would appreciate it if you just liked and subscribed to the channel. Help us grow. And I'll be back soon with another review. Thanks.